Okay, Andy, thanks for joining me today. I appreciate the time. I know we all have time with what's going on, and it's nice that we have technology where we can chat. Obviously, you and I are good friends, growing up together.
Yeah.
So we chat together all the time via text or whatever. But to do this and to get this out so other people can kind of learn a little bit more about you and what you're doing now and a little bit about your past is awesome. The members at Kent obviously know last year you won the club championship and had a record-setting round during the qualifying before match play. But other than that, I'm not sure if they know exactly what you do now or if they know that they have a guy that played in the U.S. Open as a member. Just a little bit of your background. Obviously, I'm proud of your playing career as a friend, knowing you since I was 5 and growing up at Green Ridge,
Yeah.
which is sadly not there now, but that's where you and I did junior golf, and then going to Egypt Valley after that, and then high school golf, and then playing at Michigan together. So we obviously know each other like brothers, but I want to get that out to some other people too. So give me, and I know this, and I could give it myself, but I want you to do it. Give me the Andy Matthews quick bio to somebody that just met you, but wants to
Sure.
know about your golf and what you're up to now.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks. Well, no, I appreciate you reaching out and making this happen. Really appreciate it. So really my background in golf, like you said, what started out at Green Ridge, I was 7 years old when I started playing. It's what I did with my parents Sunday afternoons after church. And as I grew up, was kind of involved in the junior programs with tennis and swim club and the like. But really, as the story gets told by my parents, it's I came home one day and said, "Can I not swim or play tennis anymore? Can I just play golf?"
Sure.
And so that's kind of how it got started. And for me, it was really one year over the next just kept one upping itself. So that kept me motivated. I would shoot a little bit lower score or play well in one of the 9-hole events at the club. And that for me really started building a lot of momentum. And, I know there's a lot of juniors out at Kent that are afforded a similar opportunity. And for me, it was just making it available, and I took advantage of it. And, that evolved into a high school career. Never won a state championship, but had a pretty good high school career that got the attention of the University of Michigan, and was really proud of my. There we go blue. Really proud of my time there. I was Big Ten Freshman of the Year, All Big Ten my senior year, and a 2-time captain. And really, my golf career, if we say, started between my freshman and sophomore year while at Michigan. Many of us remember the Buick Open at Warwick Hills. There's now a Champions Tour event there, but my first foray into professional golf was going and playing the Monday qualifier for the Buick Open in 1999. So obviously been a number of years, but I got in. I remember I made a putt on the last hole to shoot 68 and get one of the 4 spots into the tournament. And being around the club that week, literally seeing the guys that I've watched on TV for years growing up, I'm sitting in the locker room tying my shoes next to them. And that was the moment for me where I really knew that I was going to pursue golf professionally. I think a lot of us growing up in the game always had that dream or that hope to do it. But for me, that was really kind of the moment that cemented it for me. And then from there, through my career at Michigan, everything was kind of geared towards that. I wanted to finish and pursue a degree that I was proud of. And I graduated from Michigan with a degree in sports management communication. And frankly, that kind of set me up to do some of the things as I was starting my professional golf career, from doing my own marketing, trying to sell sponsorships of myself, if you will. And really, I'd say my big break there was getting my status on what's now the Mackenzie Tour. It was the Canadian Tour at the time, PGA Tour Canada in the middle, but getting status there right away and having a schedule that I could plan my summers around, commit to, and then really kind of formulated a team around that with Charlie Vandenberg has been my swing coach since my sophomore year of high school. I actually started working with Charlie when he was at Kent, and that relationship continues today. But as a professional, I played 10 years. All of those years, I maintained status in Canada. Monday qualified my way into another 6 or 7 PGA Tour events. You mentioned one of them being the U.S. Open in 2007 at Oakmont. And then through that, really kept chasing it, to the point where it wasn't so much that I wasn't playing great golf. It was I started having other business interests, and just decided to hang it up. So I was, fortunate to be able to have the run that I did, and have some success. I did notch a worldwide win that's recognized by the official world golf rankings, which is fun. And but from there, now I've gotten my amateur status back, and I'm honestly can say that I have more fun playing golf now than I ever did.
Yeah, and I would say from watching from the outside, I mean, obviously you played really good in college. You played great, and as professional. But watching you just last year having fun, I mean, you play less golf,
yeah,
and you practice less. Obviously, I think as golfers, we grow and we know, okay, I have an hour now to practice because
right.
I have a 9 to 5 or whatever it is, and you use that time efficiently. And for you, I think you're scoring better because you understand yourself. You're in a good place mentally, physically, emotionally. You're in this good place, and you're scoring just as good now when you had endless hours to work on your game,
Right.
which just shows a lot of golfers that sometimes it's not about, the quantity, it's about the whole package and putting it together. And because, I mean, last summer you hit the ball great. And not even just hitting the ball, you know how to score. You've done it for so long. And anytime you play, and you talk to somebody that played professionally in any sport for a decade, they understand it. So it's just cool. It's cool to see that evolution. Tell us now, because I know, and I know you're traveling quite a bit when that was happening, what you're up to nowadays.
Sure. So really, kind of rewinding to that summer when I said I was gonna not play golf professionally anymore. Started an aviation software company called iFlight Planner that I'm in partnership with one of my college roommates, and we're really doing some exciting things there. But my 9 to 5, if you will, I kind of call that the 5 to 9. But my 9 to 5 now is director of golf performance for a company here in Grand Rapids called NeuroPeak Pro. We're the peak performance division of the NeuroCore Brain Performance Centers. And in my role, I actually work with all of our PGA Tour clients. We've got about a dozen now that I work with on a weekly basis, essentially helping them understand and optimize their performance through neurofeedback brain training. It's a technology that I leveraged when I was playing full time. So whenever I have a conversation about what I'm doing now with NeuroPeak Pro, it always comes from a place of not only representing the company, but I'm a product of it. And I've seen the changes that happened to me and how that manifested itself on the golf course with better play. And I mean, I attribute the win that I did have on the Canadian Tour to my work with NeuroPeak Pro. So it's really cool now for me, while I'm not playing the PGA Tour full time as I thought I once was going to, I'm involved with the PGA Tour and some of the best athletes in the world on a weekly basis, helping them get better, helping them uncover some inefficiencies that may be in their neurology or even their physiology, and to be able to do that on a day-to-day basis now has been really, really cool.
Well, yeah, and I think it carries a lot of weight with those clients you do have, that it's just not, you're not some guy that was in a lab or behind a computer for 10 years out of school that's now telling them how to think.
Right.
You stood on the first tee, you teed it up, you had to make a birdie on the last hole to make the cut. You've been there in their shoes. So now you can relate. And I think having that and being one of their peers is huge. And I think that's one of the reasons you're going to be, and you are successful doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I think you're right. It really allows me to bring a unique perspective to the next level of performance, whether we're working with some of our professional athletes or me in particular with our professional golfers. But I think the cool thing is like every one of us in some way, shape, or form is really good at whatever we do, whether it is our occupation, whether it is a passion or a hobby. The fun part about it is we know the science behind it and we know what the brain looks like when it's performing at its best. So whatever that occupation or hobby or passion might be, we've all had those moments where we're in the zone.
Yep.
And everything's just flowing, whether you're an attorney and you're in the courtroom or a presentation or having a conversation with your boss in a quarterly review. Sometimes those aren't the easiest situations to be in, but I think there's also times when we've kind of looked back on those and said, what happened there? I blacked out. I was really kind of in the zone. And so it's been really fun to be able to translate the performance side of all this to golf, both on and off the golf course.
Yeah. And I think, and you nailed it, the biggest thing we all search for as golfers, and especially when you become better and you're playing in events, is you get those moments, and it might be a whole round, it might be a few holes where you're like, you're in that zone, and there's been countless books, there's so much study on it. And what I've come to learn, chasing the zone doesn't get you there quicker. It's amazing how it's like, oh, I want to be in the zone. Okay. You can't just click your fingers and get it. What I think that what you're doing now is helping these players identify the steps to get there easier. So if you're talking to the average guy at the club, all right, the average golfer that's I'd say a 16 handicap, he gets really nervous on the first tee. He's just trying to shoot 84, 85, and he gets even more nervous when he's playing an event and there's going to be a score next to his name. What's your advice to these golfers that just get nervous? And how do they handle the nerves?
Yeah, it's a good question. And the first thing I always say whenever I'm having a conversation, just like we are now, that reaction that our body is having is happening because it's in our DNA. It's how our body is actually programmed to respond to a threat. So when you start to feel your heart rate go up, your palms start getting sweaty, your breathing gets really shallow, what's happening, whether that's a 2-footer to take a few bucks off your buddies, or, in the case of our PGA Tour clients, like millions of dollars on the line, when you're feeling that, one, that's what the body's programmed to do. But what it's doing is it's reacting in the same way. And this may sound a little bit of a stretch, but it's actually not. Our body's actually behaving as if it was getting chased by a bear. Yeah. So think about that 2-footer or that first tee shot. How would you feel if you had this grizzly bear kind of like lurking at you? None of us would be comfortable. But what we've seen through the science and the technology that we have available to us, there's ways that you can start to move the body out of that fight or flight response. It's our sympathetic response.
Okay.
Into a state that's much more calm, creative, and focused, that actually allows all the time and talent and energy we've put into getting better at whatever it is we want to get better at, golf in particular. We can move ourselves into a spot actually through our breathing to put ourselves in that state where we can actually perform the way that we're hoping to. So the proverbial, hey, just relax, take a deep breath. Yes, that's one breath. But what actually we work with a lot on with our PGA Tour clients is an extended period of breathing. It's consistent breathing down into the diaphragm. We're getting a lot of oxygen in. We're slowing our respiration rate down to about 6 breaths a minute. Okay. When the average individual, you say the average 16 handicapper, that average 16 handicapper is probably having a respiration rate of about 16 breaths a minute as well. Yeah. So that's like 3 times what they should be what they should be doing. And so what we see is when we start to slow that down, and I could go for hours on
Sure.
this,
Oh yeah.
but when we start to see an individual slow that respiration rate down, we start to see the body and the brain respond in a super favorable manner that then allows the individual to be where their feet are and perform that task, whatever it is right in front of them, and not thinking about the what ifs or the what if I don't, or Jimmy's standing on the 18th green watching me make a putt. What is he thinking? Or the group I'm playing through, you name it. We've all had those moments where our brain and our thoughts are not exactly where we want them to be.
Yeah. And I think it's pretty sweet now that there's a group and a company doing what you're doing where, throughout the history of the game, every good player, and I just watched a documentary on Tiger Woods and they interviewed him, and people would be like, oh, he doesn't get nervous. He gets nervous every time. And he gets the same feelings we get because, like you say, it's in our DNA. So he's not exempt from having those nervous feelings. Right. The difference between the high performers like your Jack Nicklaus, your Tiger Woods, your Ben Hogan, the guys that are legends, is they just handle it better.
Right.
And what's great now is that we can take technology and you can help through your company to teach me how, obviously I can't get to where they're at, but I can get a little bit better. And I can understand myself. So when I walk to that first tee in my club championship and I'm nervous and I'm like, what are these people going to think if I hit it miles to the right or if I duck hook one? How do I get my mind back to where it needs to be? So it's awesome. It's really cool work.
I think the way that to sum that up in itself is like, we're all going to be presented with stress. That's inevitable, but the way that we respond to it doesn't have to be. And that's where the technology that NeuroPeak Pro uses and has available to not only our peak performing clients, but the same technology is at the Brain Performance Centers. There's one in Grand Rapids right up on Knapp's Crossing there. So all of that technology is there to help retrain an individual from both a biofeedback side, teaching them how to breathe and kind of manage that situation in the moment better, but then the long term of literally retraining the brain how to function more efficiently. And that's the fun part about what I get to do on a daily basis is seeing the progression. And I think everybody at our company would say the same thing is, we're kind of in the business of changing lives, whether that is a PGA Tour player trying to get into the winner's circle, or it's, an individual struggling with ADD or ADHD, anxiety, depression, migraines, whatever it might be. There's physiological reasons behind it. And the first plan of action doesn't always have to be, a prescription drug. There's ways around it. And I think that's where we're pretty uniquely suited to have conversations and, dive in and pull the layers of the onion back a little bit to see why we're all experiencing those things that we all do.
Yeah, for sure. No, I did not give you this question ahead of time. I gave you a few because I wanted you to be a little prepared, but I'm gonna add one in there. So obviously right now people can say what they want, but we're all going through a stressful time. Mm-hmm. To me, anytime you take somebody out of their routine of going to work, of having social interactions outside of the household, all these things we're all going through as the world is, if you could give advice, because you're uniquely suited with dealing with the brain as you do, and you and I have talked, and without getting, too deep, but just like two simple steps that people could do at home to maybe ease up on the stress.
Yeah. I'll give you three. The one is just acknowledge it. Like I said, a lot of this, of what's happening, what we're feeling physically or mentally, that's that program kind of DNA response. So just acknowledge it. It's okay to be feeling what we're feeling. The second thing I would say is take some time, and I would say, ideally 10 or 15 minutes a day of just sit and breathe. Find a chair, find a quiet spot. If you got to throw your AirPods in and kind of tune out the sounds of the house, but just close your eyes and just focus on your breathing. And what the first thing that we coach all of our clients on is a breathing pattern. That's a 4-second inhale, about a 1-second hold at the top, a 4-second exhale down the backside, and another second at the bottom. And if you just count through that 4-1, 4-1, you're going to start to feel yourself kind of level out.
Nice.
That's a really, really big one. And then really the third one is get your sleep. You know, as much time, and it's awesome that we have the technology to be able to stay connected as we are. But I think everybody can attest that the amount of screen time that we're all having is just gone through the roof, whether it be through Zoom meetings or catching up on the news or social media, whatever reason we're using our devices or watching whatever shows we're into. The interesting thing about all of these devices that we're on is it emits a frequency of light that is the same that we experience on a sunny day. So it's that same blue frequency. That's why we see our bedrooms. Hopefully there's not TVs in the bedrooms, but I know there are. That's why there's that blue hue that always illuminates the room at night. All of these devices, our phones, our tablets, our TVs, emit this blue frequency of light. And what that does, it sends a signal to the brain that it's supposed to be awake. So on a day like today, it's sunny out and we all kind of probably feel a little bit of that boost of energy. That same thing happens. So when you're thumbing through social media or your email, the last thing you do before you go into bed, you're literally sending the signal to the brain that it's noon and you're supposed to be awake. And then you put your phone down and say, all right, now it's time to go to sleep. And you wonder why you kind of lay there for a little bit too long. And it's because of that signal that we are sending to the brain. So manage your blue light exposure and try and get as much sleep as you can. We always recommend a sleep environment that's cool, that's clean, and it's dark. And if you can get 8 hours in that environment, you're going to put yourself in a really good because all of the uncertainty that we're dealing with right now.
Sure. Cool. That's awesome advice because we're all going through it, and we'll be done soon. We'll be back to playing golf, and we'll be back at Kent and going through our daily lives. But we can learn a lot right now, and we can use this time to grow and to get some habits that, let's take a positive, let's get better from this. And if that means unplugging, if it means getting better sleep, if it's spending more time with family, whatever it is, let's do that. And we'll be done with this before we know it.
Couldn't agree more.
Quick, just one hitter type questions for you. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. So I would assume, and I'm guessing, the most nervous you ever got on the first tee was probably the U.S. Open at Oakmont?
Correct.
Okay. It's Thursday. You're in Pennsylvania. You're on the first tee at Oakmont. It's the U.S. Open. What did you do to kind of settle down? No, I mean, obviously I don't know if you're doing Euro Peak at that time, but what did you try to do to try to slow things down and relax?
I literally just tried to breathe.
Okay.
It sounds so simple, but that's literally all I did. But I still remember, like, even with all the training that I had done in that regard with breathing and brain training, my hands were shaking. I could hardly get the ball on the tee. And I don't remember feeling my hands when I hit the first tee shot. And I remember starting off number 10. I still remember exactly where I hit it. But I can still put myself back in that situation. And I mean, everything was on fire and I couldn't feel my hands.
Well, I mean, it's the next to the Masters and the Open. I mean, there's 3 basic events. I mean, there's 4 majors, but there's 3 that everybody talks about. Yeah, I can't even imagine. I was there and I remember it. What's funny is I don't remember where the drive went, but I just remember it was awesome and how tough that golf course was back when the U.S. Open still had rough and the greens were basically rolling like our cement driveways. Mm-hmm. And the conditions were amazing. Okay, next one. when you're playing really, really good, what ball flight do you like to see?
I always like to see the ball going right to left. I
Okay.
mean, that's
Yep.
been my thing for since day one.
Okay. What's your miss?
My miss is it's getting going too far left,
Okay.
and I know why. I know why that happens when it does. But
Okay.
that's my miss. I think Charlie would like to see my miss be a shot that hangs out to the right, but
Yep.
I still get it going left.
I would agree with Charlie on that. For guys that want to hit a draw, their misses are always going to be a little bit of blocky, but I would say you're doing okay. All right. Let me ask you this. So when you're playing, do you like to work the ball or do you like to play your shot shape? Because I think personally, as a golf instructor, I think there's this misconception that tour players work the golf ball. They're hitting these cuts and fades and draws and all this. Now, don't get me wrong. They can do it and you
Right.
guys can do it. But do you do that when you're playing around on tour?
When I've played my best golf, whether it's been, in the last 18 months or while I was playing professionally, like you said, unless I absolutely had to shape a shot left to right, I would hit my natural ball flight.
Yeah.
And the way that I would work my way around the golf course is I just knew if there was a flag cut on the left side of the green, I could be more aggressive with it. And if there was one on the right side of the green tucked over a bunker, chances are I'd aim it at the flag and draw it off it.
Yep.
That was I just knew what my ball flight was going to do in those times, and that's what I played to. I tried not to overthink it or make it too complicated, and it's just like, what can I do this shot right here to hit it as close to the hole as I can without putting myself in the short side situation.
I mean, that's what you. There's this big misconception between the average club golfer, the average 18 handicap, and what they think the better player is doing. Where the pin's on the right, they're hitting this little cut, or it's on the left, they're in the draw. Now, obviously, you guys can, but you're not playing the percentages at that point.
Right,
So,
and I think that's where when you hear the term "this golf course fits my eye," that's where a lot of that comes from. If you're a drawer of the golf ball like I am, and every other hole or most holes are going left to right, you're just constantly challenged in courses which are more shaped to favor a right to left shot. I get up there and I don't have to think twice about where I'm going to aim it and how I'm going to fit it in the fairway.
money. So you were talking about golf courses, so that leads me right perfectly into the next one. Tell me your favorite golf course that you've ever played.
I think when it's all in, my experience at Oakmont was awesome. I mean, from both a difficulty standpoint, I mean, it is the hardest golf course that I ever played. I think just from the experience of it being a U.S. Open was incredible, and saying it's probably one of it is my coolest moment in golf, and part of that comes from the golf was the golf and it was the US Open, but like you did and a number of our other friends and family members, people came out of the woodwork to be there and support me. And for me, frankly, that was pretty humbling, where I'm just out there doing what I do best and absolutely love doing. And to think that people from all over the country came to support me was just awesome.
Yeah, it's well, I mean, they're proud of you. And when you see somebody doing something, performing what they're passionate about at the highest level, we all want to be a part of that. We want to celebrate it. And just playing in that, I mean, I'd say less than 0.5% of golfers will ever actually tee it up in a US Open. So yeah. That was my next question. Biggest golf accomplishment, which obviously that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think when you can say you played in that, people are like, what? Wait, what? All right. One thing now, and there's two more questions I want to talk to you about. And one's kind of with junior golf and one's kind of about how you spend time management now. So you do not have as much time as you used to practice golf.
Right.
I can honestly say last year at the club, when I saw you, most of the time you were playing.
Mm-hmm.
If you have time and during the average week in the summer, hopefully this summer, how would you practice or how would you spend your time? Would you rather go to the range for an hour or would you rather go play a quick 4 or 5 holes? Like what's your game plan?
Yeah, I would say when it's midsummer and we've got a few more reps under our belts, for me, it's playing.
Yeah.
That's, what I love to do. I want to be out on the golf course. I love being out at Kent, and that's where I want to spend my time.
Yep.
I then let that kind of drive what I need to do practice wise. If
Yeah.
I, wasn't hitting it great, or my short game was a bit off, or the putting stroke didn't quite feel where it needed to be, I'd spend a few minutes and focus on that and try and dial that back into a place where I'm more comfortable with. But, given a couple hours after work, I would much rather play. And specifically, I love being on our back nine late in the day. There's hardly a place like it in the city.
It's true. You get up to 18 green and kind of just look around. You're like, yeah, this is pretty hard to beat.
Yes, no doubt.
If you could, and this is the last question I want to ask you, just because we've been through it, and a piece of advice to the average 12, 13-year-old junior golfer that says, you know what, I want to be a golfer. Like, what would you tell the junior golfers, and not just at Kent, but anywhere that love the game, give them a piece of advice?
The first thing that I would say is the first thing that comes to mind is play because you want to play. And, not because it's what your friends are doing or what your parents are asking you to do, but do it because you want to do it and because you love the game. That's where I was when I was a junior. Jimmy, you were in the same spot where, we were in a unique position that was afforded to us. I mean, the amount of chicken tenders and French fries we ate growing up during
milkshakes. Don't forget the milkshakes.
And the milkshakes, of course. But that's really it, is like, do it because you want to do it and because you have fun, and it's something that you can do with your buddies, with your parents. I think we all know now that it's an incredible business tool. And so that if you're able to go out there and have fun and play because it's something that you love to do, you're gonna start spending time in the areas where you enjoy being and what you're good at, and let that happen naturally. Take advantage of the resources. I know the junior programs that you're spooling up now in your new role as director of instruction, make those available to your kids. If there's a member that has a junior watching this, encourage them to do it, ask them to do it, but don't make them do it.
Yeah. Awesome. I couldn't say it better. Yeah. You want kids there and anybody there that wants to be there.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
All right.
It goes both ways, from an enjoyment perspective as well as an instructor perspective.
Yeah, for sure. Andy, I appreciate your time.
Of course, Jimmy. Thanks. Appreciate it. Look forward to seeing you out at the club hopefully soon.
Yeah, we do too. And we'll see you soon, Andy. Thank you.